friends. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Megan, and I am the manager of Two Bright Lights, and I'm really excited about this guest that we have today. I had the pleasure of meeting Jessica a little over a year ago now, which is crazy because I feel like I've known her forever, at one of the boot camps that we did in Charlotte. And so she's joining us today from Columbia, South Carolina. She is an amazing wedding photographer, everything photographer, and just has become a publishing rock star. She has this whole submission process down to a science. Justin, I agree, Jessica is the best. She's fantastic. So I'm very excited for her to be here today to talk you through the entire capturing details process, which to many of us can be extremely daunting, along with the whole submissions process. So she is a pro. She absolutely knows what she's talking about. So without further ado, I am going to pass things over to her so she can tell you and give you all of her knowledge so that you can get on that submission bandwagon as well. All right, Jessica.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. I'm so happy to have everyone here. I am incredibly honored to be working with Two Bright Lights. As Megan said, I feel the same way about her. I feel like we've been friends forever. If you don't know who I am, hello, my name is Jessica Hunt. I've been a wedding photographer for 7 years, and this is my 3rd year full-time in business. I have a degree from a small liberal arts college in the middle of nowhere in South Carolina, and I'm super passionate about seeing photographers get published and making sure that we as an industry are uplifting diversity and inclusion throughout the publication sphere, but also educating photographers on how to make publication happen because it is so daunting and overwhelming at times. So before we start the presentation, everybody, welcome. Hi, I'm so happy that you're here. I want to start off with what are detail shots in general? I know we hear this phrase all the time where you're like, oh, get the good detail shots, or what's a detail shot? Well, I want to define them for you today as storytelling images. Every image that you take of any detail needs to add along to the story of the wedding day that you're shooting. So take it out of your mind that we're just taking pictures of pretty shoes, or that we're just taking pictures of greenery on a banister or a bouquet or any of these things that we consider detail shots. And let's change how we're thinking about them from the jump before we even get to the wedding day and realize these images aren't just detail shots. They're part of the wedding day story. And if we're using them correctly, we're going to nab those submissions every time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. But I do want to start us off with everyone in the mindset that detail shots are not just pictures of pretty things, but the things that you're going to use to tell a full and complete story from the wedding day that you're photographing. To Capturing Detail Shots 101. Today we're going to talk about how to prep to shoot detail shots, how to push your detail shots further, what details actually matter to an editor and to your client, and how to wow both editors and your clients with your detail shots. First, I want to tell you a little bit about me if you may not know who I am. I am first and foremost a photographer. I absolutely love my job. I love creating imagery. I love being an artist. I have a degree in studio art with an emphasis in photography. So a lot of my life is wrapped up in art and art history and theory and creating imagery that has meaning and shows emotion. I'm also a business owner. And if you are a small business owner and a photographer watching this, you know that those two roles are separate and they are different. I tell a lot of people all the time, 20% of my job is taking beautiful images. 80% of my job is being a business owner and to being a professional. And I'm an artist. I love to paint, work with watercolors. I do prints. I don't show off any of that kind of stuff or put it anywhere. I stick to imagery usually for everything. But that's something that I use as a creative outlet. And I'm also a dog mom. If you follow me on social media, on my Instagram story, you probably see lots of pictures of my little pup. His name is Ranger Danger. and he's probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm sure everyone who has fur babies feels the same way about theirs. I'm also a crazy cat lady. I have 2 cats that have been with me for 5 years, and they have seen my business go through the ups and the downs, and thankfully they have not yet run away. So I think I'm doing okay with the crazy cat lady. I've been published in both print and online over 40 times throughout my career, and that number is already and only growing. I use Two Bright Lights for most of my submissions, and I've seen a lot of success. Obviously, that's why I'm partnering with these amazing ladies over at Two Bright Lights to teach you guys about details today. So know that I'm not just some little random photographer who hasn't seen success in the things that I'm going to teach you about today. I abide by these rules that I'm going to talk about today, and I have seen so much success, not only in publication, but with my marketing and with booking clients that are my brand because I am getting published so much. And I'm extremely passionate, as I mentioned before, about community and about diversity and inclusion of every type of people and idea and thought into our community and into our industry. That's something that's very heavy on my heart, and that I work really hard to ensure that my work and the imagery that I create is diverse and representing every type of culture and people and type of love that there is. So that's just a little bit about me. Let's go ahead and dive right in to the first step to great detail shots 101 is you need to prepare ahead of time for detail photos. If you're a photographer who's showing up to a wedding day without asking your clients what their day looks like or what the theme of their day is or their colors or really any questions about the imagery from their wedding day, if you're walking onto the day without asking your clients ahead of time, you're doing them a disservice and you're doing yourself a disservice. The first way that I do this is I send extensive questionnaires to my couples before the day to ensure that I'm aware of every little bit of their special details ahead of time. I ask them questions like, are you wearing anything or any heirlooms that are really important to your family? Are you giving any gifts to anyone that you would like photographed? Any jewelry that you're wearing important to you? Is your groom getting dressed and wearing his grandfather's tie? All of those questions we go over ahead of time before the wedding day. So when I arrive, I know the things that are very important and the unique things about the day before we get there, and I have them on a list so I can ensure to document them. Things that clients will tell you in these questionnaires will be, I'm wearing my grandmother's ring, or I'm giving my mom a hand-sewn handkerchief, or my groom is getting a boudoir album, and I love that. All of these things are something that we should know ahead of time as photographers. So when we arrive, we're not going, hey, so do you have cute shoes today? Or anything sentimental you'd like me to photograph? You're arriving with a plan, and you're arriving knowing what they look like or have an idea of their color theme. So you're not just showing up and hope the styling works out. You're showing up prepared and ready for their specific day. I send my questionnaires through a project management system. You can do it through email if you're not signed up with a project management system. Don't feel like extensive questionnaires is a super overwhelming topic or overwhelming thing to be like, oh man, that sounds kind of crazy, extensive questionnaires. Don't get overwhelmed, because these questionnaires are going to help you so much throughout the shooting process and the submission process. Because if you're like me, if I don't write something down, I do not remember it. So don't just ask your clients at their consult what's special to them or what details they're going to have. Get it in writing through a questionnaire. So when you arrive on their day, you're aware of all of those special, unique things that you need to capture, and you're ready to style them because you already are familiar with the theme and the colors of the day. Know your wedding day's theme, colors, and decor before you show up to shoot. Basically what I was just talking about. Stop showing up to your wedding day, fingers crossed, hope it's beautiful. I've done it. I think we've all done it. I think that's something that we all run into, and we all are on the way to a wedding day like, oh, I hope this one is so good. I hope it's so beautiful. I hope it's publication worthy. I want to be real with you. Every wedding that you photograph is publication worthy if you're shooting it in the right way and if you're documenting those unique details correctly. Every wedding day is different. As photographers, we know that fact like the back of our hands. No day is the same, no couple is the same. So let's not shoot it the same. Let's walk onto the day aware of the theme and the aesthetics that the couple is trying to achieve. The colors, so we're bringing along styling elements and decor before you show up to shoot. And just be aware of every little part of the wedding day aesthetically, so you're not surprised when you show up. And if that wedding day is the sunflower, burlap, cowgirl boots, and lace situation, because you're going to know ahead of time and be mentally prepared to shoot even that as perfectly and as beautifully as you would shoot the most perfect styled shoot created for your brand. I know that most of us as wedding photographers probably create timelines for our clients on the wedding day. If you're not creating timelines for your clients, I don't know what you're doing, and you're better at this than I am, because I could not survive a wedding day without my timeline. It is a rule of law on my wedding days. But I'm going to encourage you to not only create a timeline for your couples, but also create a detailed timeline for the wedding day that gives you, whoever you are, your shooting style, the way that you document things, as much time as you need to properly photograph the details. The way that I do this in my business is I absolutely always have 4 hours before the ceremony of shooting time for me and my couples. Always. That's to ensure that I'm not rushed through the details of the bride or the groom, or the bride and the groom and the groom, whoever it is at that time. And that's to give me time to slow down a little bit, be creative, get these quality images, and not be taking time that the bride did not expect for me to take, because I've prepared her ahead of time with the timeline of the time that I need to take those photos. So yes, speak to your couples and create a timeline that fits their day and their needs, but figure out for you how much time you need to photograph the complete, full invitation suite with styling. How much time do you need to focus on the groom's shoes, tie, and watch? Every photographer, this amount of time is going to be different. I don't want to tell you that you have to have 4 hours for the ceremony. I'm not going to tell you that, because I'm not you. That's what I need to ensure that I'm getting quality, gorgeous detail images of things like the invitation suite, the bride's details, the groom's details, getting ready, the storytelling elements that start off their wedding day. I need 4 hours before the ceremony. You may be superwoman, superman, and only need 2 hours before the ceremony and still be able to get that done. So I want to encourage you, go on a wedding day and time yourself. Figure out how much time you need to complete these requests and to make sure that these shots are successful, and then incorporate that into your timelines with your couples. They don't know how wedding photography works. You do. You're their wedding photographer. So lead them in the right direction to make yourself successful. I wanted to show these images for you guys today as an example of some storytelling images and incorporating special details into a shot that captures more than just one thing. So if you'll look at the picture on the left, it's of an invitation suite, a ring, earrings on a cute background with a veil, right? Some lace. Looks pretty normal. But that ring, the stone, was from the bride's grandmother. Those diamond earrings were her great-grandmother's, which her great-grandmother wore, her grandmother, her mom, and she has now worn on her wedding day. And that veil was the bride's grandmother's or mother's. I can't quite remember. So each of those things are important to our couple and important to editors, because those are unique details that really speak to the history of this family and speak to the importance of this couple and their family's history. So I would obviously mention these earrings and that ring and this veil, and also getting a great picture of their invitation, but incorporating all of those details into one. And so I'm telling a story. She got ready, but look at all of these beautiful things that are so important to her that she got ready with. And then the next image on the right, just a bit of a storytelling image, showing off what the bridesmaids were wearing. Those necklaces that you see, every single bridesmaid got one from the bride. And I really was in love with those tulle skirts, from that wedding day. All right, next thing is, how are you going to make your detail photos pop? Because I know we've probably all gotten to sit down and stylize an invitation suite or try and stylize a pair of shoes or something, and you're at a loss. It's not inspiring you. The colors aren't working. You can't find good light. Life is hard. Wedding photography is not easy. All of those things kind of converge on you and in your mind. And it's easy just to give up, throw your hands up and say, that's too much right now. But instead, let's talk about how to make your details pop in a quick and easy way. First thing is, and I know it's hard and investment is hard, but bear with me. Invest in equipment that is meant to properly shoot detail photos. I shoot all of my detail photos, storytelling images, as you were, with my 50mm 1.2, my 100mm 2.8, and my 35mm 1.4. I am a Canon shooter, if you're wondering. I use my 50 for nice, pretty low bokeh shots and low depth field shots of shoes and things of that nature. I use my 35 for that big, wide overhead of the flat lay of the invitation suite. And I use my 100 to ensure that I'm capturing gorgeous photos of things like the earrings, the rings, the necklace the bride is wearing, anything that's a little bit smaller. Now I know the 3 lenses that I just listed all rack up for a pretty hefty price tag together. So instead of looking at that list and being like, oh, I'll never get there, that's too much, that's crazy, choose one thing that you know you want to get better at shooting. Maybe you're tired of your macro ring shots and your detail shot, your ring shots not being good enough or not as clear as you would like. Then choose to invest in the 100. Maybe, you really need a great documentary lens, and you also need a lens that's going to be wide enough to capture those beautiful flat lays that you've been practicing. Then get the 35. Now, you don't have to get these L series lenses, but I want to encourage you to invest in yourself and in your business. It's so easy to get wrapped up in life and wrapped up in how many bills we have and all of that, and forget that your work and your detail photos and investing in you is still important and is just as worthy of any other bill to pay. So if you're really frustrated with your detail photos or your storytelling images and you just can't get that look that you want, I would encourage you to look into investing in upgrading your equipment, or go ahead and start working on saving up to make that investment. The next thing I would encourage you to do to make your details pop off the screen is to stylize every photo that you take to match the day's theme, colors, and feel. You're probably like, wait, that sounds hard. It is. But here's an easy way to think about it. Before the wedding day, in your extensive questionnaire, your couple is going to tell you their colors or what they think their colors are, because I know we've all showed up to a wedding day where they said their colors were something and then the centerpieces are not any one of those colors. So you're going to ask you ahead of time in your questionnaire what their theme and their colors are, and I want you to choose one of those colors. When you arrive on the wedding day, try and get some element of that color. Say it's pastel purple of the bridesmaids' dresses and there's some purple in the bouquet. All right, so those 2 things already have purple in them. Every other storytelling image that you're taking, let's try to get a little of that pastel purple in it. In the background, in a little petal in a detail shot. Maybe the shoes are purple of the bride. Maybe the centerpieces have a little bit in it. Search for those common elements and themes throughout the wedding day and capitalize on them, because they're going to make your submission and your images pull together more beautifully for an editor, and it's going to make those spreads that they create for their blogs or for a print magazine so much easier if you're already providing detail photos and storytelling images that have common themes and elements in them. And the last thing that I would encourage you to do is study the styling of a photographer you admire or publications you are working to be featured on. Styling, storytelling images, flat lay, all of those things are some newer trends in our industry. And it's hard to be creative when you're in a crunch and you're holding an invitation suite and you're like, put it on the ground with some bricks, I guess. We've all done it. Don't look at me like that. So what I want you to do is, instead of going into your wedding day, fingers crossed it works, like I was saying before, prepare yourself. Choose a flat lay image that you're just so attracted to by another photographer, maybe on Instagram or on a blog that you follow, or maybe you follow this photographer personally. Study that image, study their styling elements and how they styled it, and try and replicate it yourself. Try and use those styling elements, I guess you could say, to incorporate into your own flat lay and into your own detailed storytelling images. We can only learn from practice and from being inspired. So I would encourage you to allow yourself to be inspired by other photographers' work. And it's okay if you screenshot and bring something to the wedding day and use that as a guide. You're not stealing. It's really all right. In fact, if you tell that photographer, they're probably going to be so flattered. But that's going to take away that kind of like, I don't know how to flat lay feeling when you're in the middle of a wedding day, because you've studied your style ahead of time and you know what you're about to do. This is an example of one of my flat lay images from a real wedding. I bring a little detail kit, and this was just set on a little canvas board, put some tulle over it. I brought those stamps, and I got some greenery, used her ring, that's her pearl necklace. Pretty simple, pretty run-of-the-mill average, I would say. But that's just an example of how I flat lay. Maybe this could inspire you and you could screenshot right now and maybe try and do this same picture at your next wedding. That's fine. But go and find photographers and flat lay images and detail shots that you're inspired by. Study them. Do your little bit of a homework kind of thing. I know most of us are probably out of high school and college by now, thank God. But if we want to create successful images with styling that isn't natural to us, we've got to do a little bit of the homework to make that happen. All right, number 3. Let's talk about what details actually matter, because I know we've all been on a wedding day and looked around and we're just like, this is a lot. I'm just going to take pictures of everything. And you just kind of roll with it and rock with it and shoot, click, 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 click. Let's talk about how to focus in on what's actually important for your client and for editors. The first thing is, you always want to be providing your client and your editors with images that tell the day's story and captures unique details and storytelling elements. So, if you have a beautiful photo of a banister covered in greenery, and you have no other photos of that banister or of in that room or in that house from this wedding day, that is not a storytelling image. Storytelling image would be a photo of their ceremony location, because you're telling the viewer this is where they got married. You want every single photo that you're delivering to your editor, to your client, to add to the story that you're telling of the wedding day from start to finish. Obviously, our clients get way more photos than an editor does. Usually editors only, like for Too Bright Lights, the limit is 150 images. But be sure to be selective about those images. Don't repeat things. How often do we read books that tell us what happened in the chapter before it, in the first few sentences of the next chapter, and then in the next few paragraphs, they remind us again of what happened a few months ago in the other chapter? Excuse me, if you think about it, we're not wanting to repeat elements that we've already shown to the editor. So when you're building that submission and you're really thinking about what images are truly important in detail shots, ensure that they're telling a story that you're trying to convey and they're not repeating themselves over and over. You may have a bride with the most beautiful shoes in the entire world. Deliver her 25 photos of those gorgeous shoes. Give your editor 2. You can shoot for publication and shoot for your client at the same time. Since I started trying to get published and shooting for publication, it has absolutely helped me move my wedding galleries to another level of service for my clients. Because you're walking in on the wedding day with an idea that you're not only there just to get beautiful photos for your client, but you're also have in the back of your head that your goal is to make publication-worthy images. So you're going to be pushing yourself just a little bit farther. This has truly helped me wow my clients again and again because I'm now focusing more on storytelling. I'm now making sure I'm getting a comprehensive view of their day, detail images, just a variation. I'm doing that on the day, so when I go to build my submission, I can pick out the strongest of those images. But now my clients are receiving anywhere from 100 to 150 more images per wedding day because I'm taking more. I'm thinking about more. I'm trying to get published. I'm working harder. And it's just a little bit of a, kick in the booty, if you could say. When you're trying to shoot for a publication, it's going to push you a little bit harder. And not only are you giving your clients beautiful photos, but it's going to become now you're creating beautiful photos so you can get published. And that's going to take you to the next level on the wedding day and with your images. Of course, I will always say, shoot for your client first, then get your publication-worthy image. But once you start shooting a few weddings, shooting for publication, those two things are going to blend together and your client is going to be more happy about how you're shooting and you are in turn as well as your features start to come in. The more unique to that couple in that day, the better. That's what details actually matter, y'all. There's the secret. The more unique to that day and that couple, the better. If that wedding day is something that we've all seen a million times before, it's still unique because that bride and groom or that couple, their love is unique. No relationship is the same. No couple is the same. No wedding day is the same. So I want to encourage you to really seek out and find out maybe before the wedding day, or they might have forgot to mention it in the questionnaire and you find out on the day, those unique things about this wedding day. I know we've all probably shot a wedding day we were inspired by and it was not as much fun as we wanted it to be. A lot of things go into that feeling as us as artists because we are so personal with our work. I want to encourage you to step back and realize that no matter what the aesthetics or the details of this wedding day are, or don't look great, or maybe they're not inspiring you, whatever the case may be, I want you to throw all of that out of your head and realize that to that couple, their decorations and their colors and their sunflowers or whatever it is beautiful and perfect to them. So photograph it the way that they see it. Photograph what's unique to them the way that they would want. Though that wedding may not be different for you and it may be hard and not very inspiring, toss all of that out of your mind. Pull yourself up by those professional bootstraps because I know you're a great wedding photographer. Batten down those hatches and go rock it out, no matter if you're inspired or not, because your couple will appreciate that effort and that professionalism, and that in turn will result in features and editors realizing, man, this photographer rocked this sunflower, cowgirl boots, rustic, burlap, and lace wedding out of the park because I showed up refusing to allow the sameness that I see in that wedding day to affect how I shoot it. So look at your days as unique as they are. Don't allow yourself to get bored with them. And remember, the things that actually matter are your client's requests and whatever is unique to that couple in that day. I wanted to show off this couple for you guys. If you'll notice that image on the left, the bride has a custom-made caplet. If you follow me on social media, you know this is my Game of Thrones bride. Her name is Dany. Obviously, kind of funny because her favorite character is Daenerys Targaryen. And her dress and a lot of her details were inspired by Daenerys Targaryen in Game of Thrones. That's a cool, unique thing that I was inspired by and excited about. But those are the things that I'm going to work on and really focus on in gorgeous imagery, because that's unique. That's different. Did Danny and Sam have a wedding at a country club like everyone else has, in that area? Yeah, but their wedding day was unique because I found the things that were unique about it. And last thing, excuse me, let's talk about how to wow both your clients and your editors with your detail shots. I want you to just slow down, take your time, go the extra mile, and take good photos. It's that simple. If you're a professional photographer and you're being hired to photograph weddings, stop doubting yourself. These clients trust you. They've already signed a contract with you. They've invested in you. So don't show up on the day second guessing yourself. You got this. I promise. If you're a photographer and you have a camera in your hand and you're passionate about this job, that's all you need. That's it. If you care, you go the extra mile and you slow down and give yourself the time to get great storytelling images, you will do it. You just have to set yourself up for success and believe in yourself. I know that is hard. I have just gotten to the point in my 7 years of shooting weddings, in the past maybe 2.5 years, where I walk onto a wedding day confident AF, y'all, ready to rock and roll. That's something that comes with experience and comes with success. But I want to assure you that I don't care if you're in your first year of business or your 10th year of business. Slow down. Take good photos. Go the extra mile. That's how you wow your clients on the day of and when they get their gallery back. And that's how you show editors that you did above and beyond and you deserve that feature spot on their calendar. Attention to detail and telling a cohesive story of the wedding day should be above all else. That's how you wow your clients. You take care of them. You care about them. You ask them questions and you express that their day truly is unique and important to you. And then while you're doing that for your clients and you're getting those gorgeous images for them, in turn, it goes hand in hand with wowing an editor. So I want to encourage you, take better care of your couples, pay more attention to them, pay more attention to their wedding days, and that's only going to help you in the long run. It's going to help you with more word of mouth referrals because your clients are so wowed they can't help but tell someone about you. And it's going to nab you features because an editor can tell when you do pay attention to detail and you went the extra mile in your images. And that's the last thing I have for you guys today. And I really want to sit on this one for a second. Go the extra mile every single time. And I misspelled single wrong. So I didn't go the extra mile with this. But really, to be real, wedding days are not easy. We all know that. Couples are not easy sometimes. We all know that as well. I want to encourage you to really focus in on why you're a wedding photographer and how important these images and the imagery that you create is, and that you always go above and beyond for your clients, for your editors, and for yourself in those images. I am a wedding photographer in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm going to be real with y'all. Any wedding between the dates of June 1st and September 31st are miserable, all right? It's hot down here, y'all. We have humidity, 100-degree days. It's hard for me to go. I'm going to be real with you. It is hard for me to steel myself and to go the extra mile when you're hot, sweaty, dehydrated, tired. Not even on a hot wedding day, it's hard to go the extra mile. Even on any wedding day, it is. But I want to encourage you, if you're looking for more success in bookings and you're looking for more success in getting published, do it. Go the extra mile. Push yourself. Hustle hard. It will pay off. It will. I've seen it in my own business and I've seen it in many of my other friends' businesses that extra hustle and that extra work is always worth it. And I want to end with you guys today on a picture that I went the extra mile for. This was a hot South Carolina wedding day, understatement, but the couple had requested that we take a little bit of a trek to this beautiful location, and all they cared about was their pictures together. That's all they cared about. They literally told me that no other picture on the entire wedding day mattered to them other than their portraits together. We spent 30 to 45 minutes just shooting couples portraits in 95-degree heat, with my assistant standing off to the left of this couple holding a fan, trying to keep them cool. Me looking like a drowned, wet kitten, sweating. But look at this image, y'all. Worth it. Absolutely worth it. Not only is my couple wowed and they're so happy and they're so thankful, I now have this beautiful imagery in my portfolio, but now I can send this to an editor and show off that veil and show off my couple and know I stayed longer, did more, worked harder, and it paid off. Not only in the result of a great review from this couple, but also in a future of this wedding. So that's all I have for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to the web. We can start answering some questions and see if you guys can throw me any softballs or hardballs or anything like that.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. We definitely got a lot of questions throughout that. That was fantastic. So one thing that quite a few people brought up that I think would be really cool to dive into a little bit more is, tell us more about this styling kit. Do you bring things? Like, do you use things that are already part of the wedding? Talk a little bit more about that.
Okay. So I bring a styling kit that is basically full of neutral things that can be used in styling elements, basically. I have a collection of a few different spools of ribbon that are all neutral colors that can basically go with any wedding day. So I'm not just showing up with specific stuff. I'm kind of showing up with those little pretty things that could help me. But what I usually do on a wedding day is I try to use all of their pretty things. So often I use probably a spool of ribbon in almost all of those invitation or detail shots, but I'm going to get pieces of florals from their florals of that day to use, or if I'm going to need a different background, I'm going to use the bridesmaid's dress as the background and the color in those images. So I bring along things in case I'm in a crunch and they're all neutral and I need them. But when I go through those questionnaires with my clients, I make sure to mention, do you make sure to have a few blooms ready for me when I get to the bride's room so I can go ahead and put those in the styling elements or things like that. Other things that are in this little thing, or my detailed styling kit, as you could say, is I have a Mrs. box that I use at some weddings. I don't use it at every one, but if the couple doesn't have a ring box, I usually try to use it for a few things. It's just the standard white ivory, so it usually works for every wedding day. I have a collection of different old stamps that are of various colors. So if I need to put a stamp on that invitation flat lay, I already have them ready, and I just go through and find one that aesthetically looks like it would fit in with that wedding day. So colors on the stamp, whatever, what have you. I also have this gorgeous gold hanger that I bring to every wedding. Just in case my bride doesn't have a customized hanger, I can just go ahead and put the gown on that, and we're not fighting with that like plastic hanger problem that we've all gone through. And just a few other things like pieces of tulle and little pieces of lace, pretty little things, as you could call them, just to ensure that if my couple doesn't have that, I've brought the pretty stuff that's neutral and I can use it to style in with their details and it won't stand out. And that's something I bring to every wedding day. It's actually in the back of my car right now because I never take it out of my car, and I should have for the webinar, so sorry guys. I actually blogged about it, and I have a full blog about that. So if anyone wants to get that link, you can just hit me up on Instagram and I will send you the blog so you can see absolutely everything that's in my detailed styling kit.
Awesome. And we will actually find the link to that blog post and post it in the chat here. So stay tuned for that. So another thing that's come up a couple times and is a question that, or a statement that I hear a lot. So photographers will say, I shoot really low-key weddings that are very detail light. You know, some of them don't have flowers. Some of them have one invitation, maybe not even bridesmaids. How do you approach that? And is that still possible to get published?
Absolutely, without a doubt, 100%. The first thing I would say is if you're walking into a wedding day that doesn't have those elements that we're looking for and we're expecting as wedding photographers, if you didn't know that ahead of time, you didn't put your questionnaire in. Second thing I would say is focus on what's unique to that couple. You know what's unique? They don't have a wedding party. All right, so you get 30 extra minutes of gorgeous portraits. Focus on she's not holding fresh flowers, and maybe they're fake flowers and are not the most aesthetically pleasing thing. Raise your hand if you've been there in the chat, man. Woo. All right, take a really low bokeh photo of that and maybe not focus on it, but get some great photos of it and incorporate it into your images. Like I was talking about before, choose one color and incorporate that into every picture and storytelling image that you're taking. All right, do that on those. It's hard. I'm going to be real with you. It's hard to be inspired, and it's hard to get all of those crazy details when you feel like they aren't there. But I want to kind of keep everybody away from thinking those details aren't there. They are there. You just have to find them. Even on those little wedding days where maybe they don't even have an invitation suite, and she's not even wearing a necklace, and she doesn't even have her ears pierced, and it's just a dress and shoes. All right, rock it out. Then when you go to submit, show off just those gorgeous shoes. And in your little album story, mention to the editor, my bride was super low key. She was really chill. The only thing that mattered to her was her portraits with her groom. So I've included 25 extra portraits because the rest of that stuff didn't matter to this bride, and I think that's really inspiring. However we look at each wedding day, it's going to change how our imagery looks. So if we're walking in saying, no matter what they give me today, I'm still going to get great detail photos. If you have that confidence in yourself, you will make it happen. I just think it takes a little bit more creativity and maybe being a little bit more attention to detail. A great thing that I do as well in these type of image weddings is go grab some detail shots and some really beautiful photos of the foliage or the flowers or the venue, things like that. That's not just that onward perfect horizontal picture of the venue. Get a little creative with those type of images because they're going to add to that story, and they're going to tell the story of a couple who didn't have a wedding party, and that was all right.
That's great. I need to remember that so I can say that when people ask me that question. And we were able to put the link to the blog post that Jess mentioned in the chat, so definitely check that one out. So a little bit more about your timeline. Is there a template that you have or that you recommend using? And the 4 hours that you mentioned before the ceremony, does that include family, bridal party shots? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I do have a template that I created. I haven't bought any timelines from anyone or any educational sources. I just kind of worked out that time throughout my experience. Oftentimes I would give myself for 45 minutes with the bride and her details, 45 minutes with the groom and his details, and then 30 minutes of prep time before the ceremony, and we do all the stuff afterwards. And that's how a lot of my wedding days ran, and I found myself running out of time again and again and again. So I decided, well, if I keep running out of time, give myself more time. So I kind of found that 4-hour mark through trial and a lot of error. But that is basically now how that 4 hours works is I require an hour and a half with my bride, her getting ready, all her details. I require an hour with my groom and all of his details getting ready. So that's about 2.5 hours. And then I always make sure to capture the bride and her girls and the groom and his guys before the ceremony if they're not having a first look. And that usually takes me about an hour and 15 minutes or so. And then I always request that I have about 30 to 45 minutes before the ceremony without anything on the timeline. All it's labeled as ceremony preparation. During that time, I'm walking around getting, like I was talking about just a minute ago, those venue shots that are a little bit more creative. I'm letting the couple cool down and get mindful and have a little bit of a moment before they promise their lives together. And I also, during that time, take advantage of getting any other storytelling stuff that I haven't already. So that may be pictures of stuff around their venue or the ceremony location or ceremony details, things like that. So that's how I usually, if my couple does not have a first look, and I'm a wedding photographer in the South, a lot of couples are deeply rooted in a lot of tradition. So I would say 50%, 50-50 it goes with my couples that don't have a first look. So on wedding days, I don't have a first look. That's how I break it down. An hour and a half with my bride and her stuff, an hour with my groom, about an hour and 15 minutes with the groups separate and all of those photos. And those during that time, that's individual portraits, each girl with the bride, all of them together, the formals and the candids. And then if I have time at the end, I'm going to do more storytelling, detail oriented. And then I have that 45 minutes before the ceremony to ensure that I'm capturing the venue, ceremony location, and anything that I may have missed in that time ahead. So that is basically how I break it down. But like I said, everyone make whatever you need. So maybe you only need 45 minutes with the bride and you can get it all done. More power to you. Teach me your ways, I swear. But just kind of figure out for each photographer, I think this is going to be a different formula. That's why I kind of wish people wouldn't buy template timelines sometimes, because all of us shoot differently. We all have different styles. So at your next wedding, if you're a wedding photographer, time yourself and see how much time you need. And then take your time on that, time yourself. Then every wedding you go to, make sure you give yourself at least that much time for those detail shots.
Have you ever had any issues with planners with your timeline of how that works?
Usually I confirm with the bride and we build that timeline together. She gets a questionnaire about her timeline, or the groom, whoever is doing the planning. Some couples, mainly bride, some couples groom. We'll create that timeline together. I'll explain why I need this much time. The timeline that I send them has explanations under each block of time so they know what I'll be shooting and when. And then once we've confirmed on that and the couple is okay with it, if they have a planner, I send it to them. And I kind of put my foot down a little bit with the before the ceremony. I've had some planners say, is that flexible, whatever. And I've learned that that's the time that I need to be successful. And that's just how it is. And so I think if you go about that in a respectful and professional way, and you explain to the planner, you want great photos of this wedding day. I want great photos of this wedding day. The couple does too. I'm the photographer. Promise I know what I'm doing. Just trust me. And then you'll give yourself enough time and you're going to be successful. And then the planner is going to think in their head, why did I even question this girl?
I like that. That makes sense.
Yeah. If you're successful, people don't know. We can't expect them to know how our job works. So establish yourself as a professional and establish yourself as knowing what you're doing and having experience. Then make it happen and perform on that. And then you're never gonna get that question from that planner again, because they're gonna know, oh, Jessica needs her 4 hours. It's worth it, y'all. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So the next thing is more of a statement. I have never seen so many people talk about your hair.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody loves your hair.
Oh, gee. Hey, guys.
So in terms of the florals, do you ask the couple to have the florals delivered before you get there, while you're there? What's your
Usually
preference?
I ask that I give on my timeline, say if my couple gets an 8-hour package, I give them, every couple, no matter who it is, I gift them 30 minutes of time before their timeline even starts. So this is 30 minutes before the 4 hours even begins. I gift it to my couples. That's when I'm just walking around, warming up, getting my equipment ready, whatever. And I tell my couples, you want your florals to arrive within that 30-minute time span. So when I start shooting and I'm ready to rock and roll and we're starting the flat lays in the bride's room or whatever, the florals are already there and I'm not kind of looking around or asking my assistant to go grab them. They're there ready to go. And I'll also request I send my couples list of the things that they need to have in a little pile ready for me when I arrive. So we don't waste 10 to 15 minutes being like, where's her shoes? And the bridesmaids are like, I don't know. And we can't find her garter and we can't find this and that because it is hectic on a wedding day. So I prepare them ahead of time to ensure that their florals are there before I start photographing or get there within that 30-minute time period. And then I'm also sending them lists before. So they are, when I arrive, all their details are already ready for me and already there. So I'm not searching for them. I'm not searching for florals. Everything's in the same place and we're ready to rock and roll.
Makes sense. Okay, so this is a two-part question. In terms of the flat lays, do you do that before, during, or after the bride gets ready? And then if you're looking to like do the invitation suite, what if there is only one, just an invitation? It's really simple. How do you go about styling that?
Okay. The first thing I shoot on the wedding day, when I'm not that 30 minutes of walking around warming up, the first picture I take for clients is a flat lay style of invitation. I start with that every single time. Usually I tell my bride throughout their timeline, I give them a time of when the latest possible time during their day they have to have their gown on and encourage them to ask their vendors, their beauty vendors, to be done 15 minutes ahead of that. I'm usually arriving about an hour and a half before she gets her gown on. So when I get there, I'm collecting all details and I'm rocking and rolling right into a flat lay because that helps me know when I get a good look at that invitation suite and I get in my head that flat lay and I take some photos of it, kind of helps me start the day off with knowing where my theme, where my colors, what my whole idea and what I'm trying to go in my imagery for this wedding is, because I started out with something that is very much my creation and very much my styling of what they have. So that's why I like to start with that, because I get familiar with their colors, familiar with their theme really quickly and easily that way. And I'm usually doing this in the same room that the bride is getting her hair and makeup done. So I'm also at the same time kind of chatting with her and kind of feeling and reading her on the day at that same time. Then the second question, if you only have one little really basic, no pretty envelope, no calligraphy, totally okay. If there's not an envelope, I never use the little stamps that I bring. Doesn't really make sense. So that's one thing I would say. But I would say if you've got that one little square, dress it up. Put it over a bridesmaid's dress. And if you're bringing us detail styling kit, this is when those extra neutral things are really going to come into advantage for you here. Because though the couple hasn't provided those pretty little things, you brought them. You're Gucci. So kind of try and take that one little square and incorporate as much of the wedding day's theme, colors, details in those photos. Just like the one I showed during my presentation, that was their invitations. There was one square, that's it. So what I did, I found an interesting background with texture. I created a little bit of a style with that lace through the image, and then I just put her jewelry on top of it. I think a lot of times when we think about flat lay, invitations, things like that, we get really overwhelmed. I just want to say to all the photographers listening, bae, less is more. Less is more.
I like that. Less
Yeah.
is more.
Yeah.
It's a good phrase to think about for a lot of things.
Absolutely. In general, in life, less is more. Photography, less is more. All of the things.
So we have time for one more question. This hour flew.
I know. I'm like, I'm already done. I've been preparing for this for so long.
So when you're trying to figure out what is unique to the couple, do you actually ask them, do you ask their love story, Do you figure it out on your own just from dealing with them? How do you kind of approach that?
That is all covered in my questionnaires. My clients get 3 extensive questionnaires throughout their wedding experience with me. And their first questionnaire is a lot about their love story. So I ask them things like, how did you meet? How was the proposal story? And I encourage them to answer all of these together. I ask them what their favorite, like what was the moment that they knew each other was the one, what their favorite things are to do together. And I ask them, when's the last time that they can remember that they felt the most in love with that other person? All of those questions not only help me with editors because I can include their how they met and how they got proposed story in an album story when I'm submitting without having to go to the couple after the fact and ask again. But all of those questions are things that I reread over before the wedding day to ensure that I have a good idea of who this couple is and how they love. I'm a big proponent of telling my couples, I do not want to put you in a Pinterest pose that we've seen a million times. I want to take photos of you and your love. So I can only do that if I get to know them and I ask them those questions. I use 17 Hats as my management system to send my questionnaires. You can obviously use like Honeybook, Desalo, whatever you want. But I make those super, super extensive and probably a little too personal, to be honest. But I do that so when I get to the wedding day, I truly feel a connection with them and I understand how they love each other. So I'm not putting them in poses that didn't even make sense. And I also feel like I can interact with my couples a little bit better, and I'll pull out those little like hints or little things that they've told me. For example, if I'm trying to get the groom to laugh and he's really, really nervous, I'll say, hey man, don't you remember what you love about Dana? Come on, bro. That's going to make him laugh and giggle. And it's also going to show, I read what you said. I care about your family. I care about your relationship. I actually do care. I actually put time into this. And that just helps everything go a little bit better because my clients have no doubt that I truly do care about them and they're just not another wedding or another number or another contract for me.
Well, that was great. Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Thanks for having me.
I had such fun hanging out with you. I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. Make sure you follow Jessica on Instagram. We put it at the top of the chat. It's J Hunt Photos. So definitely check it out. Not only does she post beautiful work, but she also talks about her blog posts that she writes are many times geared towards education for photographers as well. Talking all about her publishing success, and you can follow along and cheer her along as she continues to increase that number of published features, which I know all of you will start to do now too. So again, thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Jessica on Instagram, reach out to us. It's support@twobrightlights.com or Two Bright Lights on Instagram. So definitely find us, follow us, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.